Welcome to Seerat Un-Nabi. Discover the timeless legacy of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Have you ever wondered what Arabia was like before Islam? What made the Prophet Muhammad the most influential man in history? Let's explore the life that changed the world forever. This is not just history. It's the light that still guides hearts today. The life of Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
The blessed series of the life of Prophet Muhammad begins today. However, before discussing the life of the Prophet, it is important to introduce the land of Arabia, the Arab people, and the general conditions of that time, so you can better understand the situation in the Arab world and the broader world at the time of the Prophet's birth. A brief overview of the land and people of Arabia. The Arabian Peninsula is a landmass bordered by the Arabian Sea to the south, the Persian Gulf and the Sea of Oman to the east, and the Red Sea to the west. This country, surrounded by water on three sides, has Syria to its north. Most of the land is made up of deserts and barren, uncultivated valleys, though a few areas are known for their greenery and fertility. Geographically, the country can be divided into 5 main parts. Yemen. Yemen has historically been the most fertile area of the Arabian Peninsula, known for its peace and tranquility. The climate is temperate, and there are wide and lush valleys between its mountains, producing abundant fruits and vegetables. The people of Saba, an ancient civilization, resided here. They built many dams for irrigation, including the famous Marib Dam. However, when the people of Saba disobeyed, a great flood occurred, breaking the dam and causing the Saba civilization to scatter across Arabia. Hijaz. Located north of Yemen, Hijaz is the region chosen by Allah to be the birthplace of the light of guidance. The central city of this region is Mecca, a barren area surrounded by mountains and valleys. Mecca was the birthplace of the Prophet Muhammad. The second important city in Hijaz is Yathrib, which later became known as Medina al-Nabi, the city of the Prophet. To the east of Mecca lies the city of Taif, famous for its green fields, orchards, and shady palm groves, making it resemble paradise amidst the desert. Notable valleys in Hijaz include Badr, Ohud, Bayar Mauna, Hudaybiyah, and Khaybar. Najd. Najd is an important region in Arabia, located to the east of Hijaz. Today, Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia, is situated in this area. Hazar-e-Maut. Located on the eastern coast of Yemen, Hadramaut appears to be a desolate area. In ancient times, it had 2 cities, Daifar and Shayban. Eastern coastal areas, Arab Emirates. These areas include Oman, Al-Asa, and Bahrain. In ancient times, pearls were extracted from the sea here, and today, these regions are rich in oil reserves. Wadi Sina. To the northeast of Hijaz, between the Gulf of Suez and the Gulf of Aqaba, lies the area of Wadi Sinai. It is here that the people of Moses spent 40 years wandering the desert. Mount Sinai, where Prophet Musa has received the tablets of the Torah, is also located in this area. Note: it is important to remember that the original Arabian region included the present-day Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Bahrain, and Oman. Later, areas such as Syria, Iraq, and Egypt were conquered, and many Arabs migrated and settled there, causing these countries to adopt an Arab cultural identity. However, the original Arabian land is what encompasses modern-day Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Oman, and Yemen, and this can be clearly seen on the map of the Arabian Peninsula. Why are the Arabs called Arabs? There are 2 opinions on this. According to one view, the word Arab means eloquence and fluency, as the Arab people considered themselves unmatched in their eloquence and speech, referring to others as ajam, mute or unintelligible. The second view is that the word Arab comes from the word Araba, meaning desert or wilderness. Since most of the Arabian Peninsula consists of desert, the entire region came to be known as Arab.
History of the Arabs, the Arab nations. Historians divide the Arab people into 3 groups. 1. The ancient Arabs Arabida. These are the ancient Arab nations that once inhabited the land. Many of you may have heard of the tribes of Ad and Namud. In addition to them, the Amalika, Tazim, Jadis, and Amim are also notable tribes. These nations established empires stretching from Iraq to Syria and Egypt. They were the founders of the ancient civilizations of Babylon and Assyria. As for how these nations vanished from the face of the earth, history is unable to provide detailed explanations. However, archaeological discoveries are being made in the ancient ruins of Babylon, Egypt, Yemen, and Iraq, and books are being written on the subject. The Quran tells us that when the nations of Ad and Namud exceeded the limits of disobedience and rebellion against Allah, divine punishment surrounded them, and they were wiped out. 2. The pure Arabs, Arab Ariba. The pure Arabs, also known as Banu Qatan, are descendants of Sam, the son of Prophet Noah. These people settled in Arabia after the destruction of the ancient Arab tribes, like Ad and Namud, and the eventual fading of the early civilization. Qatan was the grandson of Prophet Noah, alayhi salam, and his descendants were known as Banu Qatan. Initially, they settled in Yemen. The famous queen of Sheba, Bilqis, was also from a branch of Banu Qatan. Later, due to various circumstances, Banu Qatan migrated to other parts of the Arabian Peninsula. One reason for their migration was the famous flood that resulted from the collapse of the Marib Dam, forcing them to move to other regions for survival. This flood is also mentioned in the Quran. Another reason for their migration was the rapid increase in their population, which compelled different tribes to leave Yemen in search of new territories. Some of these tribes settled across the Arabian Peninsula, while others moved to the borders of Syria, Iraq, and Iran. One tribe, Banu Jurhum, moved towards Mecca, where they settled near the well of Zamzam with the permission of Prophet Ibrahim's, alayhi salam, wife, Hajara. Banu Qatan had a prominent tribe, and one of their leaders, Thalaba, migrated to Yathrib, Medina, where they defeated some of the Jewish tribes and established settlements. Their descendants formed two well-known tribes of Medina, Aws and Khazraj, who played a significant role in the history of Islam. 3. The Arabiized Arabs, Arab Mustariba. The last group to settle in the Arabian Peninsula were the descendants of Prophet Ismail, alayhi salam, who are known as the Arabiized Arabs, Arab Mustariba. Following Allah's command, Prophet Ibrahim, alayhi salam, brought his wife Hajra and their infant son Ismail, alayhi salam, to the barren valley of Mecca and left them there before returning. At that time, Mecca had no population, and the Kaaba did not exist. Although the Kaaba was originally built by Prophet Adam, alayhi salam, it had been lost by the time Prophet Ibrahim, alayhi salam, arrived. When Ismail, alayhi salam, was 15 years old, Prophet Ibrahim, alayhi salam, returned to Mecca, and father and son rebuilt the Kaaba under the guidance and supervision of Gabriel, alayhi salam, based on the original foundation laid by Prophet Adam, alayhi salam. As the heat and thirst began to affect the child, Hajra, a mother in desperate search of water, ran between the hills of Safa and Marwa, hoping to find water for her son. Eventually, as Ismail, alayhi salam, cried, she noticed that water was gushing forth from the ground where he had been rubbing his feet. Overcome with gratitude, Hajra, alayhi salam, rushed to her son, thanking Allah and giving him water to drink. She also drank from it and created a small reservoir around the spring. When the water began to overflow, she exclaimed, Zamzam, stop, stop. Zamzam, a miracle of Allah. An extraordinary fact about the Zamzam well deserves mention. Today, large pumps are used to extract water from the well, and the water level remains consistently 6 feet below the foundation of the Kaaba. Millions of gallons of water are drawn from the well every day, yet the water level replenishes itself within just 11 minutes to its original position. What is most astonishing is that this water never rises above 6 feet, which is a level at which it stopped when Hajra called out, Zamzam. If the water did not stop at this level and continued to rise, it would quickly overflow due to the volume of water being drawn. This miraculous consistency in water level is considered a direct result of the blessing from Hajra, the role of Banu Jurhum. As mentioned earlier, Banu Jurhum, a tribe from the descendants of Banu Cotton, migrated from Yemen in search of new land. When they reached the valley of Mecca and found the well of Zamzam, they decided to settle there with the permission of Hajara R.A., as she owned the well. This tribe's presence provided the support and stability needed for the survival of Prophet Ismail, alayhi salam, and his mother Hajara R.A. Over time, Mecca transformed from a barren valley into a thriving city. This settlement marked the beginning of Mecca's transformation into the city that would later become the birthplace of the Prophet Muhammad. The legacy of Banu Jurhum and the well of Zamzam became integral to the history and sanctity of Mecca and the Kaaba. Key events after Prophet Ibrahim's, alayhi salam, arrival in Hijaz. In the previous episode, we discussed the migration of Prophet Ibrahim, alayhi salam, and the miraculous emergence of the Zamzam spring beneath the blessed feet of the young Ismail, alayhi salam. This spring was a sign of life in the barren valley of Mecca. Initially, the tribe of Jurhum, who were searching for water in the deserts of Arabia, settled near the Zamzam well. Soon after, another tribe, Banu Keturah, also settled there with the permission of Hajara R.A., the mother of Ismail, alayhi salam. Thus, Mecca, which was originally called Baka, as mentioned in Surah Al-Imran, began to take the shape of a settled community. Over the next 15 to 20 years, several important events took place, two of which are particularly significant. One, the sacrifice of Ismail, alayhi salam. One of the most profound events was Prophet Ibrahim's dream, in which Allah commanded him to sacrifice his son Ismail. This was indeed a great trial for both Prophet Ibrahim and his son Ismail. Upon receiving the divine command, Prophet Ibrahim came to Mecca and shared his dream with his son Ismail. The young Ismail, alayhi salam, who was in his adolescence at that time, accepted the command with full obedience, saying, "If this is the command of Allah, then I am ready to comply." He submitted himself entirely to Allah's will. Just as Prophet Ibrahim was about to carry out the sacrifice, Allah, seeing their complete submission, sent Jibril with a ram to substitute for Ismail. Hence, the ram was sacrificed in place of Ismail, marking the end of this trial. This act of obedience was so beloved to Allah that, to this day, it is commemorated in the form of the annual Eid al-Adha sacrifice. Every year, millions of Muslims around the world offer sacrifices to renew the memory of this great act of submission to Allah. It is also mentioned that Ismail passed away in Mecca, and according to one narration, he and his mother, Hajara, are buried near the Kaaba in the area known as Hajar or Hatim. And Allah knows best. 2. The reconstruction of the Kaaba. Another major event was the reconstruction of the Kaaba. The Kaaba was originally built by Prophet Adam and was the first house of worship on earth. However, over time, the structure was lost and became indistinguishable. During the time of Prophet Ibrahim, there was no trace of the original Kaaba. At Allah's command, Jibril guided Prophet Ibrahim to the location of the original foundations, and together with his son Ismail, they rebuilt the Kaaba on these foundations. The structure of the Kaaba was simple. It had no roof, no doors, and no windows. The word Kaaba is derived from its cube-like shape, as anything with 6 equal sides in Arabic is called a mukab, a cube. The structure built by Ibrahim was originally a simple cubical shape, and it became known as the Kaaba. It is important to note that the present Kaaba, with its 4 corners, was built much later, when the Quraysh rebuilt it after a flood had caused significant damage. This reconstruction will be discussed further below. 3. The acceptance of the Hanif faith, the religion of Ibrahim, by the tribes. After the reconstruction of the Kaaba, Prophet Ibrahim entrusted the religious administration and the guardianship of the Kaaba to the tribe of Jurhum. Later, Ismail.
The custodianship and administration of the Kaaba. In the previous episode, we mentioned Qusay bin Kilab. According to one narration, Qusay was given the title Quraysh, which later became the name for his descendants. Another narration attributes the title Quraysh to Fire bin Malik, a revered figure in the lineage of Ismail, alayhi salam, who lived 6 generations before Qusay. The custodianship of the Kaaba, known as Taliya, was a prestigious honor, and it brought not only respect and authority in Mecca but across the Arabian Peninsula. Qusay bin Kilab and his descendants, through their rightful governance, managed to elevate their status and prove their worth. Qusay bin Kilab not only took charge of the Kaaba's custodianship but also laid the foundation for Mecca as a state-like structure. He established 6 key departments and assigned them to capable individuals. After his passing, his grandsons, through mutual agreement, expanded these 6 departments into 10, and this system continued to function effectively until the time of the prophethood of Muhammad. The 10 divisions of authority. As a result of this system, various branches of responsibility for the city and its holy site were distributed among the clans of the Quraysh, and these functions continued down through generations. Among the most important of these positions were as follows. 1. Sakaya, providing water to pilgrims. The responsibility for supplying water to pilgrims during the Hajj was assigned to the family of Banu Hashim, the descendants of Hashim bin Abdul Manaf, who was a grandson of Qusay bin Kilab. This position was passed down through the generations of Banu Hashim. 2. Imarat al-Bayt, maintaining the Kaaba. The duties of maintaining the Kaaba, ensuring its sanctity, and overseeing the conduct around the sacred house were entrusted to the Banu Hashim family as well. 3. Ifada, leading the pilgrimage. The leadership of the annual pilgrimage, including the coordination and guidance of the Hajj rituals, was also given to Banu Hashim. Hashim bin Abdul Manaf was a highly esteemed figure. He established diplomatic and trade relations with the kings of Abyssinia, Habasha, and the Byzantine Empire, Rome, and also forged treaties with various Arab tribes. His diplomatic prowess earned the family of Banu Hashim a special place of honor among the other Quraysh tribes. 4. Military leadership and banner bearers. 5. The leadership of the Quraysh military and the responsibility for carrying the banner in battle were assigned to the Banu Umayyah clan, which produced figures such as Abu Sufyan and his son Muawiyah. The military commander of the Quraysh army was always chosen from Banu Umayyah, a tradition that remained well into the time of the Prophet Muhammad, pbuh. For example, Harb, the son of Umayyah, and later Abu Sufyan, led the Quraysh armies. 5. Ashnak, civil and legal authority. The Banu Taym family, which was the family of Abu Bakr Siddiq R.A., was entrusted with the administration of civil and criminal justice, including the collection and determination of fines and penalties. They held the responsibility of enforcing the law within the community. 6. Diplomacy and negotiations. The responsibility for conducting negotiations, treaties, and diplomatic missions with other tribes fell to the Banu Adi, the tribe of Umar bin Khattab, R.A. They played a central role in representing the Quraysh in matters of diplomacy and external relations. 7. Public welfare and military supplies. The Banu Maksum, the tribe of Khalid bin Walid, R.A., were in charge of organizing and collecting resources for the army, including military supplies and horses. They were responsible for mobilizing the necessary resources for war efforts. Khalid bin Walid, R.A., himself later became the commander of the Quraysh cavalry, leading the mounted troops effectively in battles. The other divisions, the remaining 5 departments, were also divided among different clans of the Quraysh, with each family or tribe assuming responsibility for a specific role within the administration of Mecca and the Kaaba. These roles ensured a smooth functioning of the city and its sacred sites, with each clan contributing to the management and upkeep of religious, political, and social matters. This system established by Qusay bin Kilab became a well-organized and successful structure, and it continued to operate even during the time of Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, providing a stable and respected foundation for the Quraysh in the Arabian Peninsula. The sacrifice of Abdullah and his diet, blood money. Hashim's diplomacy and merit. Hashim bin Abdul Manaf, the grandfather of Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, had established diplomatic and trade relations with the Byzantine Empire. During one of his trips to Syria, he married a noblewoman from the Banu Najjar tribe named Salma. However, tragically, Hashim passed away during this journey. After his death, Hashim's wife gave birth to a son named Shayba. Due to the fact that Shayba was raised by his uncle Muttalib bin Abdul Manaf, He was affectionately referred to as Abdul Muttalib, meaning the slave of Muttalib. This name became historically significant, and Abdul Muttalib came to be known by it. Abdul Muttalib's character and desire for many sons. Abdul Muttalib was a handsome, dignified, and respected leader, and Allah blessed him with great honor. He became the chief of the Quraysh in Mecca. For a long time, he had only one son, Harith, and he desired many more children. He made a vow that if Allah granted him 10 sons who reached adulthood, he would sacrifice one of them in the path of Allah. The birth of 10 sons. Allah accepted his prayer, and Abdul Muttalib was blessed with 10 or 12 sons, one of whom was Abdullah, the father of Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abdullah was the youngest and most beloved son of Abdul Muttalib, and he had a special place in his father's heart. When all 10 of Abdul Muttalib's sons reached maturity, he remembered his vow. He gathered all his sons and went to the Kaaba, where a traditional Arab practice of drawing lots, qur'ah, was performed to determine which son would be sacrificed. The lot fell on Abdullah. The dilemma and the intervention. Abdul Muttalib was deeply distressed, as he loved his son dearly and did not want to sacrifice him. However, since he had made a vow, he could not break it. He set off with Abdullah towards the sacrifice site. At this point, members of the Banu Hashim family, who also loved Abdullah, became very concerned. They suggested that he consult with a wise woman, a soothsayer, in Yathrib, Medina, for advice. Abdul Muttalib followed their suggestion, and the wise woman advised him that the way to resolve the situation was to offer blood money, diet, instead of the sacrifice. In Arab tradition, 10 camels were paid as blood money for a person's life. The final decision. The soothsayer recommended that Abdul Muttalib draw lots again, but this time for Abdullah and 10 camels. This process should be repeated until the lot fell on the camels instead of Abdullah. The process was repeated 10 times, and on the 10th draw, the lot finally fell on the camels. Consequently, Abdullah was spared, and 100 camels were sacrificed in his place. The marriage of Abdullah and Amina. Abdullah, the father of Prophet Muhammad, married Amina bint Wahb, a noble woman from the Banu Zurah tribe. It was from her womb that the Prophet Muhammad, the seal of the prophets, was born. The pre-birth condition in Mecca. Before we begin discussing the birth of Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is essential to understand the socio-political, religious, economic, and cultural environment of Mecca at the time. Additionally, we must consider the significant event that occurred 50 days before the birth of the Prophet, the Year of the Elephant. In the Year of the Elephant, the Abyssinian general Abraha, who was stationed in Yemen, marched towards Mecca with a large army, including war elephants, intending to destroy the Kaaba. This was a significant event in Mecca's history, and it was a prelude to the birth of Prophet Muhammad. The attack was divinely thwarted when birds sent by Allah pelted Abraha's army with stones of clay, and they were defeated. This miraculous event is mentioned in the Quran in Surah Al-Fil. This event marked the background of the world into which Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was born. Before the birth of the Prophet, Mecca was under the control of idolaters, and the people were divided into various tribes, each with its own beliefs and practices. The social structure was tribal, with a strong emphasis on lineage, honor, and respect. As we continue to explore the life of Prophet Muhammad, we will delve deeper into these significant events and their impact on the early days of Islam. The event of the people of the elephant. Surah Al-Fil. Have you not seen how your Lord dealt with the people of the elephant? Did he not make their plot go astray? And he sent against them birds and flocks, striking them with stones of sigil, and made them like eaten straw. Surah Al-Fil. The Year of the Elephant, 571 CE. The incident of the people of the elephant occurred in the same year as the birth of Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in 571 CE. During this time, Abraha bin Ashram, a Christian ruler of Abyssinian origin from Yemen, gathered an army of 60,000 soldiers along with 13 elephants and set out to destroy the Kaaba in Mecca. Abraha's rise to power. Abraha was initially a commander of the Christian army sent by the king of Abyssinia to avenge the oppression of Christians by the Jewish ruler of Yemen, Yusuf Dunuwas. By 525 CE, this led to the establishment of Abyssinian rule in Yemen. Over time, Abraha became the independent ruler of Yemen, yet he cunningly maintained the formal suzerainty of the Abyssinian king, referring to himself as the deputy king. Abraha was a staunch Christian, and after securing his power, he decided to spread Christianity among the Arabs. Additionally, he sought to take control of Arab trade, which was primarily centered around Mecca due to the Kaaba. Abraha's plan to divert the pilgrimage. In his attempt to weaken the significance of the Kaaba and its role in Arab trade, Abraha constructed a magnificent church in the capital of Yemen, Sana'a, known as Al-Khalis, or Aklis in Greek. His goal was twofold. First, to redirect the annual pilgrimage of the Arabs from the Kaaba to this newly built church, and second, to monopolize the lucrative trade routes that had previously flourished around Mecca, which was the center of Arab commerce due to the Kaaba. Abraha publicly declared that he would force the Arabs to change their pilgrimage destination and travel to his church instead. Furious at this challenge to the sanctity of the Kaaba, an Arab, Hijazi, man defiled the church by committing an act of impurity inside it. This act of desecration enraged Abraha, and he vowed to destroy the Kaaba in retaliation. Abraha's march towards Mecca. In late 570 CE, Abraha set off from Yemen with his army, including the 13 elephants, intending to destroy the Kaaba. On his way, 2 Arab leaders tried to resist him but were defeated. Abraha's army, resembling a storm, reached Al-Mughams, a location near Mecca. Here, the army camped, while some of Abraha's forces raided nearby areas, looting livestock from the people of Tahama and the Quraysh. Among the looted items were 200 camels belonging to Abdul-Muttalib, the grandfather of Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abraha then sent an envoy to Abdul-Muttalib, the chief of Mecca, with a message that he had no intention of fighting the Quraysh but had come solely to destroy the Kaaba. He assured Abdul-Muttalib that if the Quraysh did not resist, he would spare their lives and property. The response of Abdul-Muttalib. Abdul-Muttalib, known for his dignity and wisdom, responded calmly. He acknowledged that the Quraysh had no strength to fight against such a powerful army and emphasized that the Kaaba was the house of Allah, and Allah himself would protect it if he willed. Abdul-Muttalib replied, "We have no power to fight Abraha, but the Kaaba belongs to Allah. If he wishes, he will protect it." Abraha's envoy then asked Abdul-Muttalib to accompany him to Abraha's camp. Abdul-Muttalib agreed. Abdul-Muttalib meets Abraha. Abdul-Muttalib was known for his noble and striking appearance, which greatly impressed Abraha. When Abdul-Muttalib arrived, Abraha dismounted from his throne and sat on the ground to converse with him. Abraha asked, "What do you want?" Abdul-Muttalib responded, "I want the return of the camels that were taken from me." Abraha, perplexed, replied, "You are asking me for your camels, yet you do not speak about the Kaaba, which is the foundation of your ancestors' religion. I have come to destroy it, but you are not concerned about it." Abdul-Muttalib calmly answered, "I am the owner of these camels, and therefore I ask for their return. As for the Kaaba, it belongs to Allah. He is its protector, and if he wishes, he will defend it from you." Abraha arrogantly declared, "Your Allah will not be able to save the Kaaba from me." Abdul-Muttalib, with unshaken faith, replied, "This matter is between you and Allah. But remember, this house has never been overpowered by anyone in the past. If Allah wishes, he will protect it." With that, he left Abraha's camp and returned to Mecca with his camels. The story of the people of the elephant is one of the miraculous events in the history of Mecca, and it sets the stage for the birth of Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah's intervention in saving the Kaaba from Abraha's army by sending flocks of birds to pelt them with stones is a powerful reminder of the divine protection that surrounded the Prophet's birth and the Kaaba itself. This event marks the beginning of the era in which Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, would be born, and the Year of the Elephant is an important historical event, showing the helplessness of the greatest military power of the time against the will of Allah. The event of the people of the elephant. After the approach of Abraha's mighty army, the Quraysh realized that they were no match for such a large force, and they did not have the strength to fight to protect the Kaaba. In response, Abdul-Muttalib, the leader of the Quraysh, advised his people to take refuge in the mountains with their families and livestock to avoid being slaughtered. He then went with a few prominent chiefs of the Quraysh to the Kaaba to pray to Allah for protection, expressing their helplessness in the face of such a formidable enemy. Abdul-Muttalib's prayer. The prayers of Abdul-Muttalib, as recorded by historians, are deeply moving and reflect the faith and reliance on Allah. He said, "O Allah, the servant protects his own house, and you protect your house. May their cross and their plots never prevail over your will. Today, help your house against the crosses of these enemies. O my Lord, I have no hope except in you, and only you can protect your sacred house." After this heartfelt prayer, Abdul-Muttalib and the leaders of Mecca retreated to the mountains with the rest of the people of Mecca, trusting in Allah's protection. The command of Abraha to attack Mecca. The following day, Abraha ordered his army to march towards Mecca and prepare for the destruction of the Kaaba. However, something miraculous happened. Abraha's most trusted elephant, Mahmud, which was intended to lead the attack, suddenly refused to move. Despite all attempts to urge the elephant forward, it stubbornly remained seated. Whenever the elephant's direction was turned towards Sham, Syria, it would rise and move in that direction, and similarly, when turned towards Yemen, it would start moving as well. But whenever the elephant was directed towards Mecca, it would refuse to budge, standing still as if commanded by an unseen force. The destruction of the army. At this moment, the Ababil, flocks of birds, arrived, sent by Allah's command to deal with the invaders. The birds carried small stones of sigil, clay, or baked stones, in their beaks and talons. These stones were not ordinary pebbles. Rather, they were divine projectiles, and wherever they struck, they caused immense damage, much like small bombs. The army, including Abraha and his elephants, was struck with these stones, and the punishment was so intense that it turned them into lifeless, mangled bodies, scattered like eaten straw. The entire Abyssinian army, along with Abraha and his 13 elephants, was destroyed in a matter of hours. The devastation left behind was so severe that only the bodies of the invaders and the remnants of their equipment remained scattered across the battlefield. This miraculous event not only saved the Kaaba, but also demonstrated the absolute power and sovereignty of Allah over his house. The year of the elephant and the birth of the Prophet, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This dramatic event took place in 571 CE, during the month of Muharram, in a valley near Muzdalifah and Mina, specifically at a location called Masr. The event came to be known as Aam al-Fil, the year of the elephant, a term that would be used to mark the year in Arab history. Remarkably, just 50 days after this event, the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, was born, and his birth, heralded by the divine protection of the Kaaba, would mark the beginning of a new chapter in the history of Islam. The timing of this event, in which the Kaaba was saved from destruction and the Prophet's birth occurred shortly thereafter, was seen as a sign of the great mission and the eventual success of the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, in guiding humanity. This episode serves as a vivid reminder of the power of Allah's intervention in safeguarding his house and the people chosen for his message. The people of the elephant came with the intent to destroy the Kaaba and undermine the unity of the Arabs, but in the end, it was Allah's will that prevailed, protecting his sacred sanctuary and setting the stage for the birth of the final prophet. How idol worship started. When Prophet Ibrahim, alayhi salam, along with his son Ismail built the Kaaba, the tribes of Jurhum and Keturah accepted the monotheistic faith of Ibrahim and believed in one God. After the death of Prophet Ibrahim, alayhi salam, the descendants of Ismail and the people of Mecca continued to follow the faith of Ibrahim, the true religion known as Hanafism, worship of the one true God. However, after the death of Ismail, alayhi salam, no prophet was sent to guide the people of Mecca. Over time, polytheism and misguidance began to spread among them. Earlier, when tribes like Ad and Banu Qazah attacked Mecca, some of the tribes related to Ismail were forced to leave Mecca. As a source of blessing, they took a sacred stone from the Kaaba with them. Due to their reverence for the stone, over time, it began to be treated as an object of worship, thus marking the beginning of idol worship. However, the actual rise of idol worship and polytheism among the Arabs, particularly in Mecca, began approximately 2,500 years after Prophet Ibrahim, alayhi salam. This was when the Banu Qazah tribe took control of Mecca. The leader of this tribe, Amir bin Luhay, was the first to introduce idol worship. He was the custodian of the Kaaba. Once, while traveling to Sham, Syria, he witnessed the people there worshipping idols. He saw 5 idols that were worshipped by the people of Noah, alayhi salam. The names of these idols were Wad, Yagath, Suwa, Yawk, and Nasr. Amir bin Luhay brought these idols back with him to Mecca. Upon his return, he claimed that the jinn had informed him about these idols, which had been worshipped by the people of Nu. He then took people to Jeddah, a port city near Mecca, where the idols were buried. He unearthed them and brought them back to Mecca, placing them around the Kaaba. Over time, the people began to worship these idols in the name of reverence and began associating divine powers with them. Gradually, the people of Mecca started making more idols. These idols were widely revered in the coming years and held great significance for the people of Arabia. Since Mecca was the center of Arabian trade and religion due to the Kaaba, when pilgrims from various tribes visited during the Hajj, they witnessed the idol worship. On their return, they began to create idols in the image of those they saw worshipped in Mecca and installed them in their own regions, initiating idol worship in their localities as well. This episode outlines the origins of idol worship among the Arabs, highlighting the gradual shift from monotheism to polytheism and the pivotal role that Amir bin Luhay played in introducing idol worship in Mecca and beyond. The false deities of the polytheists of Mecca. At the time of the birth of Prophet Muhammad, the Arabs, especially the polytheists of Mecca, worshipped several idols, which they considered as their deities. Details of these idols are as follows. 1. Hubal. Hubal was one of the most significant idols of the polytheists of Mecca. Originally, it was the deity Baal of the people of Syria, meaning the powerful one, which the Arabs later called Hubal. The idol, shaped like a human figure, was made of red agate, with its right hand broken. The Quraysh repaired it by attaching a golden hand. Hubal was placed on the roof of the Kaaba. During battles, the polytheists of Mecca chanted slogans invoking Hubal. On the day of the conquest of Mecca, Sayyiduna Ali, R.A. 2. Al-Uzza. This idol was worshipped at a shrine located in the valley of Nakhla, near Mecca, under an acacia tree. Another idol of Al-Uzza was kept inside the Kaaba. During the conquest of Mecca, the idol in the Kaaba was destroyed, and the Prophet sent Khalid bin Walid, R.A., to demolish the idol in the valley of Nakhla. Among the polytheists of Mecca, Al-Uzza was considered one of the greatest idols. 3. Al-Lat. This idol was located in Taif, near the site where the left minaret of Taif Mosque stands today. The name Al-Lat means the one who needs flour. Initially, it referred to a man who prepared and served food and drink to pilgrims. Over time, on the advice of Amr bin Luhay, an idol was made in his name and worshipped. The Quraysh used to worship both Al-Uzza and Al-Lat before going to sleep and would also swear oaths by them. 4. Manat. Manat was the oldest idol in Arabia, placed between Mecca and Medina in the area of Mashalal near Qudayd on the seashore. Its worship began under Amr bin Luhay. The tribes of Aws and Khazraj would stop at Manat's shrine to remove their ihram after completing Hajj, and tribes like Banu Azd and Banu Ghassan even performed a pilgrimage to this idol. The people of Medina considered their Hajj incomplete without worshipping Manat. This idol was destroyed by Ali, R.A., during the Prophet's expedition for the conquest of Mecca. 5. Asaf and Na'ilah. These were 2 human-shaped idols. According to tradition, Asaf, a man, and Na'ilah, a woman, committed adultery in the Kaaba and were turned into stones as a punishment. The people of Mecca initially placed them on Safa and Marwa as a warning. Later, Amr bin Luhay brought them inside the Kaaba, and they became objects of worship, with offerings and sacrifices made to them. 6. Suwa was one of the 5 idols worshipped by the people of Prophet Noah, alayhi salam, along with Nasar, Wad, Yayuk, and Yaghuth. Amir bin Luhay brought it to Arabia. The idol, shaped like a woman, was set up near Medina. 7. Nasr. This idol, shaped like a vulture, was worshipped by the Himyar tribe in Yemen. They continued its worship until they embraced Judaism. 8. Yu'uk. The name Yu'uk means one who averts calamity. This idol, shaped like a horse, was brought to Arabia by Amr bin Luhay and handed over to the tribes of Hamdan and Qalan. These tribes took it to Yemen and placed it in the area of Arhab near Sana'a for worship. 9. Yaghuth. This lion-shaped idol was set up in a region of Yemen called Akm. Yaghuth means the one who responds to cries for help. 10. Wad. This idol was installed in Dumat al-Jandal and worshipped by the tribe of Banu Kalb. The Quraysh of Makkah also held it in great regard and worshipped it. In addition to these idols, others like Aim, Al-Dazanan, Akaysar, Al-Jalsad, also significant. Moreover, there were countless other lesser-known idols worshipped by the Arabs of that era. The beliefs and idolatrous practices of the people of Makkah. The polytheists of Makkah and Arabia did not actually consider their idols as the ultimate deity. Instead, they believed Allah to be the sole and ultimate creator. However, they regarded these idols as intermediaries who would advocate on their behalf before Allah. They performed acts of devotion to these idols under the belief that such worship would bring them closer to Allah. They also attributed certain divine powers and abilities to these idols, yet they still acknowledged Allah as the ultimate provider and owner. In essence, a polytheist is one who acknowledges Allah but associates others with him in his essence, attributes, or worship. This flawed belief system led the people of Makkah into deep superstition. They sought omens in trivial matters, interpreting events as good or bad signs. To avert the consequences of bad omens, they turned to soothsayers, whose incantations, charms, and rituals became a thriving business. These soothsayers claimed to have control over spirits and would provide false or fabricated predictions of the unseen. Immersed in idolatry, these Arabs adhered to countless absurd rituals and superstitions. Historians have highlighted some of the ludicrous aspects of their idol worship and superstitions. For example, while setting out on a journey, they would carry a stone in their pocket. If they found a more appealing stone along the way, they would discard the first god and begin worshipping the new one. If they forgot to take a stone at the start, they would gather 4 stones at their resting place, 3 for cooking and 1 to serve as a deity. If no stones were available, they would pile up sand or pebbles, pour goat's milk over it, and prostrate before it. Their idolatrous tendencies were not confined to stones alone. They also crafted idols from wood and clay. In one instance, the tribe of Banu Hanifa worshipped a heap of dates. During a famine, when no food was available, they consumed their god to survive. Thus, the Kaaba, the ancient and sacred house of Allah on earth, became a hub of idolatry and misguidance under the polytheists. Among their most revered idols were Lat, Manet, Uzza, and Hubal, alongside approximately 360 smaller idols placed inside the Kaaba. They performed rituals, made sacrifices, and sought guidance from these idols. During the annual pilgrimage, the situation worsened as they performed tawaf, circumambulation, of the Kaaba while naked, cast divining arrows before the idols, and offered vows in their names. Satanic practices reached their peak in the Arabian Peninsula. The Arabs had sunk to the lowest depths of ignorance and misguidance, leaving no room for further moral decline. At this point, Allah's infinite mercy intervened. Amidst these very polytheists, He sent His beloved prophet, who struck such a decisive blow to the idols of shirk, polytheism, and kufr, disbelief, that the light of Tawheed, monotheism, spread across every corner of the earth, never to be extinguished. In the next episode, we will briefly explore the other religions prevalent in Arabia at the time of the Prophet's birth. A brief overview of religions and beliefs in Arabia at the time of his birth. In the previous section, we discussed the beliefs of the idol worshippers of Arabia and the history of polytheism. In this segment, we will take a brief look at the other religions and faiths present in the Arabian Peninsula during the time of the Prophet Muhammad's birth. Judaism. After idol worship, Judaism was the second most prominent religion in Arabia. Jews settled in the region for 2 main reasons. 1. Babylonian exile around 500 years before the birth of Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him. The Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar destroyed and plundered Palestine, forcing many Jewish tribes to flee. Some of these tribes sought refuge in Arabia, considering it a safe haven. 2. Awaiting the final prophet based on the prophecies in the Torah and Psalms. the Jews knew that the final prophet of Allah would be raised in Arabia. Believing this prophet to be their savior, they migrated to Arabia to await his arrival. Since every prophet from Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, to Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him, had emerged from the lineage of the Israelites, they assumed the final prophet would also belong to the same lineage. However, when Prophet Muhammad was granted prophethood, they rejected him, despite recognizing the signs described in their scriptures. Their denial stemmed from jealousy and prejudice, as the prophet was from the lineage of Ishmael rather than Israel. Initially, the Jews settled in Yathrib, later Medina, and Khaybar. Some locals were influenced and converted to Judaism. In 354 BCE, two Jewish preachers traveled to Yemen, and their teachings influenced the Himyarite king Yusuf Nuwas to embrace Judaism, which led to its spread in Yemen. The Jews considered themselves superior to Arabs due to their wealth and knowledge, referring to Arabs as ummi, unlettered, or ignorant. They viewed themselves as God's chosen people, believing that hellfire would only touch them for a limited time. Despite their claims, they had lost many of their noble qualities. Usury became their hallmark, and they frequently altered the Torah and religious laws to suit their needs. Religion was treated as a tool for their own benefit, and deception or injustice against non-Jews was considered acceptable. Despite their materialistic pursuits, they maintained a monopoly over religious and theological knowledge in Medina and its surroundings. Their influence was so strong that tribes like Aws and Khazraj would sometimes vow to dedicate a son to Judaism if blessed with children. Christianity. Christianity was the third major religion among the Arabs. Around 250 years after Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him, some Arab tribes in the north embraced Christianity under the influence of the Roman Christian Empire. Similarly, when the Arab king of Hira, Nu'man ibn Mundhir, accepted Christianity, many of his people followed suit. In Yemen, Christian missionaries converted some individuals, leading to severe persecution by the Jewish Himyarite king, Yusuf Nuwas. The king massacred many Christians, prompting outrage in the Roman Christian Empire. The Roman emperor instructed the Christian king of Abyssinia, who was under Roman influence, to retaliate. Consequently, a Christian Abyssinian army invaded Yemen, overthrew Yusuf Nuwas, and established Christian rule in the region. One of the leaders of this army, Abraha al-Ashram, rose to power and became a semi-autonomous ruler of Yemen. A staunch Christian, Abraha actively promoted Christianity in Yemen. He famously built a magnificent church in Sana'a to rival the Kaaba and later attempted to destroy the Kaaba itself, a story discussed earlier. This brief overview highlights the significant religious diversity in Arabia at the time of the Prophet Muhammad's birth. In the upcoming segment, we will explore the arrival of Prophet Muhammad and his role in transforming this spiritually fragmented region. The religious landscape in Arabia at the time of the Prophet's birth continued. In the previous episode, we discussed the beliefs of idol worshippers in Arabia and the history of Judaism and Christianity. This episode focuses on other religions and belief systems prevalent in Arabia during the Prophet Muhammad's birth. Christianity. By this time, Christians had largely deviated from the teachings of Prophet Jesus, Isa, and had become followers of St. Paul. St. Paul, initially a Jew, claimed to have seen Prophet Isa in a dream, instructing him to spread his message. Consequently, he embraced Christianity and gradually transformed it into a religion filled with polytheistic and heretical doctrines. He introduced the concept of the Trinity and declared Prophet Isa as the Son of God. Paul propagated the idea that Prophet Isa's crucifixion absolved all Christians of their sins, granting them freedom from moral accountability. Influenced by Paul's teachings, Christians believed that merely confessing sins before a priest was sufficient for redemption. Despite these deviations, Christians displayed relatively better moral conduct compared to the Jews and showed greater openness to accepting the truth. This is evident even today, as converts to Islam include more Christians than Jews. The religious landscape in Arabia at the time of the Prophet's birth. A detailed overview. In earlier episodes, we discussed the beliefs of idol worshippers, Judaism, and Christianity. This episode sheds light on other religions and beliefs present in Arabia during the Prophet Muhammad's birth. Zoroastrianism. Some Arab tribes near the Iranian and Iraqi borders were influenced by Zoroastrianism, the the dominant religion of Persia. They believed in dual gods, one representing good and the other evil, and revered fire as a manifestation of divinity. Sabianism, another group, known as Sabians, practiced star worship, possibly remnants of ancient Mesopotamian religions. They claimed their faith was divinely inspired and traced back to prophets Seth, Sheth, and Idris, Enoch. The Sabians observed 7 daily prayers and a month-long lunar fast. However, the pagan Arabs labeled them as heretics or Sabians, unbelievers. Certain tribes in Yemen, such as the Himyarites, worshipped the sun, while others like the Asad tribe venerated Mercury, and the Lakhm and Juzam tribes worshipped Jupiter. Some even worshipped the pole star, aligning their prayers in its direction while still respecting the Kaaba. Atheism. In addition to these religions, Arabia had individuals who rejected the concept of God, resurrection, judgment, or the afterlife altogether. They considered the universe eternal and denied any divine influence. Monotheists, Hanifs. Amidst this milieu of idolatry and superstition, a few individuals, guided by their innate sense of truth, embraced monotheism. These individuals, known as Hanifs, believed in one God and rejected idolatry. Prominent Hanifs included Warqa bin Nawfal, a cousin of Khadijah, who later converted to Christianity and affirmed the Prophet's prophethood after the first revelation. Zayd bin Amr bin Nufail, a paternal uncle of Umar ibn al-Khattab, who was deeply revered for his rejection of idolatry. He declared, "I worship the Lord of Abraham," and criticized Quraysh for straying from the Abrahamic faith. Zayd abstained from idol worship, bloodshed, and immoral customs. The Prophet later mentioned that Zayd would be resurrected as a nation unto himself. Ubaidullah bin Yash, who initially embraced Islam but later apostatized to Christianity during his migration to Abyssinia. The state of religion in Arabia. Religions in Arabia, though diverse, had become so distorted that it was difficult to distinguish between divine teachings and polytheism. The essence of monotheism, the hallmark of all revealed religions, was almost entirely absent. The entire world, not just Arabia, was engulfed in ignorance, idolatry, and moral decay. Amidst this darkness, the merciful Creator chose to send his greatest prophet, Muhammad, to restore the light of faith and guide humanity back to the truth. Glimpses of the Pre-Islamic Society, Part 1. In the previous 2 episodes, we examined the history of idolatry among Arabs and the various religions and beliefs prevalent in Arabia, particularly in Mecca and Medina, during the birth of the Prophet Muhammad. In this episode, we will explore the economic and social conditions of the Arabs, especially the Quraysh of Mecca, at the dawn of Islam. A brief overview of the Arab society at that time reveals a striking duality. It was simultaneously characterized by both admirable and deplorable traits, with each manifesting in their extreme forms. On the one hand, the negative practices and customs of the Arabs painted a picture of a deeply flawed society. On the other hand, their noble qualities and virtues presented an unparalleled example of human character and societal values. The social structure. Arab society was broadly divided into 3 main classes. 1. Settled Arabs, Hadari. These were the people who lived permanently in towns and cities. They were few in number. Their primary sources of livelihood were income from oases and trade. It was the Prophet's great-grandfather, Hashim, who established trade agreements with the rulers of Rome, Persia, Syria, and India. This enabled Arab caravans to travel to these regions and facilitated the return of goods to Arabia. Due to their guardianship of the Kaaba, the Quraysh of Mecca held a central position in Arabian society. Even the Bedouin tribes refrained from attacking their caravans, granting them safe passage. 2. Bedouins. The majority of the Arab population consisted of nomadic Bedouin tribes. Their primary livelihood was herding livestock. They wandered the deserts in search of pastures and set up temporary camps wherever they found suitable grazing land. Once the pasture was depleted, they would move to a new location. In addition to herding, banditry was a significant source of income for the Bedouins. They often raided caravans traveling through the desert. Tribes that engaged in plundering took great pride in their exploits. 3. Slaves and bondmaids. The third and lowest class in Arab society consisted of slaves and bondmaids who served the settled and nomadic Arabs. Slaves were both Arabs and non-Arabs. Arabs were enslaved either due to defeat in tribal wars or because of debts, while non-Arabs were brought to Arabia through trade and sold in slave markets. The owner had absolute authority over the slave, including the right to punish, torture, or even kill them. Slaves faced extreme punishments for minor infractions, which often defied basic human dignity. The children of slaves were also born into slavery. Bondmaids suffered similar hardships and were often exploited for immoral purposes. Those skilled in singing and dancing fetched higher prices in the markets. Slaves and bondmaids had no control over their lives, honor, property, or offspring. They were entirely under their master's ownership. Shared cultural identity. Despite continuous warfare, tribal feuds, and long-standing animosities, the Arabs shared a common culture characterized by pride in ancestry and adherence to tribal traditions. A shared language, Arabic, which was a source of immense pride. The Arabs were broadly divided into two main ethnic groups. 1. Qahtanis. 2. Adnanis, descendants of Prophet Ismail. However, both groups shared an unwavering pride in their Arabic language. Poetry was deeply ingrained in their culture and served as a powerful expression of their collective identity. The marketplace of Ukase. One of the most prominent cultural events was the annual fair at Ukase, near Taif. It was a hub of poetic and cultural expression where warriors turned poets and showcased their literary prowess. Festivities included poetry recitals of such high caliber that this era's literary contributions are still regarded as classics. Wine-drinking assemblies that often degenerated into moral decay due to the presence of immoral women. Despite their artistic achievements, these gatherings revealed the moral degradation of society. This paints a vivid picture of the state of pre-Islamic Arabia, a society mired in ignorance yet adorned with remarkable cultural and personal virtues, awaiting the light of divine guidance to emerge from its darkness. Glimpses of pre-Islamic society. Professor Abdul Hamid Siddiqui, in his book Life of Muhammad, writes that Arab traders, upon returning from their trading expeditions to Rome, Persia, Syria, and India, often brought back indulgent habits and immoral practices. Girls were imported from Syria and Iraq and exploited for pleasure, leading to a society steeped in sensuality and lust. Those who refrained from such vices were mocked and labeled as miserly, unsocial, or narrow-minded. The decline of family values. One of the darkest aspects of pre-Islamic Arab society was the collapse of the family structure. Although the wealthy enjoyed slightly better circumstances, the general state of male-female relations was marked by rampant immorality. Polygamy was common, with men often marrying multiple women simultaneously, including two sisters or even their stepmothers after their fathers' deaths. It was not uncommon for 10 men to maintain relations with the same woman. Prostitution was openly practiced, with numerous brothels operating across towns. Alcohol consumption and gambling were widespread, contributing further to the moral decay of society. Unrestrained immorality. Their shamelessness knew no bounds. Daughters attended tribal gatherings in semi-nude attire, where explicit and vulgar poetry was recited about their bodies. Hardly any vice existed that Arabs were not familiar with. They reveled in play, debauchery, and murder, becoming avid consumers of alcohol and indulgence. Each household resembled a tavern. Their cruelty extended beyond humans to animals, using them as targets for archery practice or cutting off parts of living animals to consume. Prisoners of war faced unimaginable torture, often being mutilated or having their organs consumed. Drinking from the skulls of slain enemies was considered an honor, and criminals faced barbaric punishments. Islam's transformative impact. The profound immorality of Arab society before Islam serves as a testament to the truth and transformative power of Islam. It was this very society that Islam elevated, turning a savage and ignorant people into moral leaders of the world. Despite the moral decay, some upright individuals existed in that society who distanced themselves from such depravity. The positive traits of Arabs. Interestingly, even amidst their moral decline, Arabs possessed certain admirable qualities that set them apart. 1. Valor and courage. Arabs were unmatched in bravery, which often bordered on savagery. Dying in battle was considered an honor, while dying a natural death in bed was deemed disgraceful. Even Arab women showed remarkable courage, often fighting alongside men in battles. 2. Generosity. The generosity of Arabs was unparalleled. They would sometimes give away their last possession to a needy person. Hospitality was a deeply ingrained virtue, to the extent that a man with only one camel for sustenance would slaughter it to serve his guests. 3. Love for freedom. Arabs were fiercely independent and valued their freedom above all else. Despite being situated between two great empires, Rome and Persia, no one succeeded in subjugating them. 4. Loyalty and trustworthiness. Arabs were highly loyal and upheld their promises at all costs. They considered it a sacred duty to honor their pledges, even sacrificing their lives, wealth, and children if necessary. Once someone sought their protection, they would defend them at any cost. Why Arabs were chosen as the bearers of Islam. It was perhaps these unique traits, courage, generosity, loyalty, and love for freedom, that made Arabs the ideal people to carry the banner of Islam. Their vices, while severe, were not inherent to their nature and could be eradicated, as proven by their transformation under Islam. On the other hand, virtues like bravery, honesty, and a passion for freedom cannot be cultivated artificially. These were inherent traits that Allah had endowed the Arabs with in abundance. When Islam purified the Arabs of their moral corruption and infused their virtues with the spirit of Islamic jihad, they became an unstoppable force, renowned for their valor and unwavering faith. The political conditions of the Arabs before the advent of Islam. In the last 2 episodes, the social and economic conditions of the Arabs were discussed. In this episode, a brief overview of the political conditions of that time is being presented. Before the advent of Islam, the Arabs were divided into tribes, scattered like the beads of a rosary across the deserts of the Arabian Peninsula. The political system of the tribes was semi-democratic. A chief was appointed for each tribe, chosen not only for his bravery, ability, and wisdom, but also due to his kinship with the previous chief. Everyone followed the commands of their leader, but the chief would also consult with the influential members of the tribe. Since the Arab people were known for their strong-willed nature, sometimes a small dispute between individuals from 2 different tribes would escalate into a matter of the entire tribe's honor, leading to a declaration of war against the opposing tribe. These wars would sometimes last for many years. For example, a war broke out between the Banu Taghlib and Banu Bakr tribes over the killing of a camel named Basus, which continued for 40 years. When we look at the regions surrounding the Arabian Peninsula, to the north, we see the great Byzantine Empire of Rome, and to the east, the mighty Sassanid Empire of Persia. In some ways, the Arabian Peninsula was a buffer state between these 2 powerful neighboring empires. The Arabs referred to these 2 empires as the 2 powerful lions Acidain Calib, as they were the 2 most powerful nations of the time, engaged in a long-standing conflict. At times, the Romans would defeat the Persians, causing them significant losses, and at other times, the Persians would emerge victorious on the battlefield. The ruler of the Byzantine Empire was known as the Caesar, while the ruler of the Persian Sassanid Empire was called Kisra. During the time of the Prophet, the Byzantine Empire was ruled by Emperor Heraclius, while in the Prophet's childhood, Persia was ruled by the famous Persian king Khosrow I, known as Anushirvan. Later, Khosrow II, also known as Khosrow Parvez, became the Persian king, and it was he who arrogantly tore the Prophet's letter of invitation to Islam. Here, I conclude the discussion on the history of the Arabs and the general conditions of the Arabian Peninsula at the time of the birth of the Prophet. From the next episode onwards, the detailed narration of the Prophet's life will begin. Thank you for watching Seerat Un-Nabi. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories from the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.